This is part 2 of a part 4 series looking at cybersecurity. Now, in this video, I'm going to be looking at device security. I'm going to be looking at the devices that you need to secure, that you need to harden on your network. And this is going to span home users all the way up to enterprise users. And I'm going to be closing off by looking at emerging trends in device security. So, hope you stick around until the end. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd really appreciate you hitting that subscription button. Also the like button. If you watch the video, you get value from it. It would be good if you like, share, and that you subscribe to the channel. Alright, so I am Roger, and without any further ado, let's jump right into the video. Check out the stats. And this is from Techopedia.com. Now, according to this report, it says that in 2022, 493.33 million ransomware attacks were detected by organizations worldwide. The article goes on to say that phishing remains the most common cyber attack, with approximately 3.4 billion daily spam emails. And finally, the global average data breach cost was $4.35 million in 2022. Now, coming home locally here, a few local papers reported, earlier that over 19 million cyber attacks were experienced by Jamaica in the first half of 2023. Picture that. So you see that device security is indeed the foundation of cyber resilience. Device security will go a significant way to mitigate, the threats that exist out there. The first I have on the list here of 8 points that I'm going to speak on is the cost implication. And I can say that proper device security prevents costly breaches that results in financial losses, data leaks, extended downtime, and tarnished reputation, making it obviously the cornerstone of cybersecurity. Then we have to look at things like the attack surface. Remember that, especially attacks coming from the outside. These cyber attackers penetrate the network through a device, for instance, your router. It means then, therefore, that you cannot afford to compromise on the security of your devices. Cyber attack can also be prevented by making your infrastructure more resilient against things like malware. Also, preventing data theft, protecting against phishing attacks, and I would have given you the stats there as it relates to the wide range of phishing attacks that we experience globally. It also helps to reduce data breaches, and of course, due to an increase in e-commerce, it also leads to a spike in cyber threats. And of course, also we have a lot of persons who are working from home, and as a result of that, also the risk level is also higher, or it would have been increased as a result of that. Okay, so what devices need to be secured? And the answer is simple. All devices, every single device that is hooked up to a network has to be secured, which means that everybody, all of us as players, have to play our part in ensuring that our device is kept secure. So we have personal computers and laptops. There are also mobile devices, and bear in mind here that the average person nowadays, you find having 3, 4, or in some situations even more mobile devices. Then we have Internet of Things devices, IoT, as they're commonly referred to as. Now, IoT devices include things like your smart home appliances, your wearables, and industrial sensors that connect to the internet. Now, their proliferation increases the attack surface, as many lack strong security controls. And as a result of this, now causes or poses risk to both privacy and network integrity. And of course, we have the obvious, your networking equipment, such as your servers, your routers, your switches, another security, networking devices. We also have the cloud infrastructure. Now, cloud infrastructure would involve things like virtual servers, storage, and services that are hosted remotely. Proper security is vital to protect sensitive data stored in the cloud from unauthorized access, data breaches, and service disruptions. And of course, we have things like point of sales devices and industrial control systems, ICS. Now, ICS manages critical infrastructure like power plants and manufacturing. Proper security is essential, yes, to prevent unauthorized control, data breaches, and potential disruptions with wide-ranging impact on public safety and the economy. I would have seen over the years, particularly in the US, I remember there were some years ago, I think perhaps in excess of 10 years, when there was this massive blackout in the US. I think somewhere in north thereabout in the US, a wide area was without electricity for some time. I think the speculation was that it was a cyber attack. Okay, so the question now is, how do you secure your computer? And this that I'm going to be looking at here on this slide is applicable right across the board. So whether you are a home user, whether you're in the office, you're in industry, it applies to everybody. The first thing is to have an established security policy. And I mean, this is something that key players in the market, persons in industry and manufacturing, especially, well, I know without a doubt that they would play their part in ensuring that they have their policies, given the threat levels that exist out there against them. Bear in mind too that a lot of these infrastructures are interdependent. So you may have your entity, you have third parties, who have their systems that integrate into yours, and you also have to consider yes, how you interface with them, and this is where your security policy comes in. You also secure your computer by using strong passwords, and of course, the basics, so you use complex passwords that combine uppercase, lowercase numbers, symbols, and also avoid using the same password across multiple accounts. What about keeping your software up to date? Again, another basic principle. Then it's important to also use a firewall, and even if you are that home user, it is important to implement a firewall to monitor and control incoming and outgoing traffic. Now, using a firewall does add an extra layer of defense. Similarly, installing antivirus software, and not only installing antivirus software, but also ensuring that these software are kept up to date, that they are properly configured. You can also secure your computer by implementing a zero trust policy or avoid untrusted sources. And zero trust is a principle which is somewhat relatively new, and which is where you trust your infrastructure is set up in such a way that it does not trust any device on the network, including those that are that regularly interface with your network. Remember too that it is important to download software and files only from reputable sources. Multi-factor authentication, another implement, and this now adds an extra layer of authentication, and it requires a second factor beyond just having a password. You can also secure your wireless network. Now, strengthening your Wi-Fi security, would entail things like using strong encryption, enabling WPA2, WPA3 protocols, and the obvious also configuring your router's firewall. Backing up data, key here again, especially if you are in industry, you're in business, you have an office. Key component there. What about staying informed about the latest cyber threats and best practices? And yes, you also have to ensure that you regularly review your security policy and your privacy settings. One way to also be proactive is to prepare for compromises, and this now means having a disaster recovery plan. Now, if you have a response, it is important to have a response plan in place in case your system is compromised, to minimize the potential damage, to also minimize the extent of downtime. VPN, yes, VPN is important also, a key component in securing your computer. Now, using a VPN as a virtual private network, what this does is to encrypt your internet connection and enhance online privacy. Of course, audits important, because conducting regular security audits will help you to identify vulnerabilities and assess the effectiveness of your security measures. And finally, I don't think you're seeing this on your screen, and it is to monitor activities of third-party users. Now, it is important here to keep an eye on the actions of users with access to your system, especially if they are third-party entities. Then we come to mobile devices. So how do you secure your mobile devices? And I think, well, I don't have any stats on it right now, but I think, to a great extent, this poses a lot of problems on a lot of networks, because users typically do not have any great security implements on their mobile device, apart from perhaps using a screen lock or a password, or probably using face recognition or fingerprint to unlock the device. But yes, to secure your mobile device, it is important to incorporate these things in your security policy. So you're looking at things like a screen lock, keeping the operating system on your handset up to date, installing antivirus, firewall, using a VPN, also zero trust implementation, also key, using a VPN. What about disabling your Bluetooth and Wi-Fi? And especially when you're out in public, it's not advisable to use public Wi-Fi to do personal stuff like banking transactions, for instance. You can also use two-factor authentication, or MFA, multi-factor authentication. Back up your data also regularly, and especially if you are if you are an Apple user, then most of your transactions will be, when I say transactions, I mean your storage would know will be between your device and iCloud. If you are an Android user, you have a Google account, then of course you should be ensuring that your data on the device is backed up regularly, and that can all of this process can be automated. And of course, the obvious again, which is to educate yourself, staying informed about mobile security best practices, does help. It enables you to be able to make informed decisions and to protect your device from evolving threats. Okay, so your home infrastructure, your home network, how do you protect this? The obvious again, use strong passwords, use encryption, keep your device up to date, the operating system, so that, they will have the latest patches and updates. You want to also disable remote management. This is a feature within your Windows operating system. You want to turn off remote management features to prevent potential unauthorized access to your computer or to your router. Also, use a firewall. What about enabling MAC address filtering? Now, utilize MAC address filtering to restrict network access to approved devices based on their unique MAC address, and I have a complete video here on my YouTube channel in which I show you how to get that set up. You should also limit network access, so restrict network access to authorized devices and users only. So zero trust here comes in again through proper authentication mechanisms. All right, so zero trust and MFA comes in here again. You should also disable unused services on your home network devices. So deactivate unnecessary services on devices to reduce the potential entry points. Well, to reduce, yes, potential entry points for attackers. And of course, again, I would have said this a couple times before, regularly back up your data. We are scaling, so we are now, we're getting more technical now. So we're looking now at how do you secure your office or your work network. And the first I have on the list here is your firewall implementation. So the strategic deployment of advanced firewalls such as next-gen appliances or virtual firewalls does establish a formidable first line of defense. So the moment you move into the office space, the work network, then it is it goes beyond just having the basics that you would possibly be implementing on a home network. Segmenting your network is also recommended. Now, if you micro segment your network, what is going to happen here is that you're going to have different compartments. So you have this big network within your organization, but it is compartmentalized. Now, this helps to reduce the risk because it means that breaches will be confined or can potentially be confined to each of those segments. It is better, you are better able to manage the risk level or the threat level as a result of having your network segmented. Implementing strong authentication and access control. So we come back here again to zero trust. We come back here again to MFA. That's multi-factor authentication. Here again, as I mentioned before, you're going to see some repeats. So we have regular software updates and patching using your antivirus and your anti-malware software. And here you're going to find that these are going to be scaled. These are going to be scaled. So these will not necessarily be the typical versions that you would use in your home or on your home network. So these now will be more enterprise type systems, antivirus systems and firewalls that will be used. Intrusion detection and prevention system, IDPS. Yes. Also key to you on your work network. Now, nowadays too, you find that these systems have integrated in them AI, and this also goes a far way to help to pick up threats, in terms of their hunting capabilities and being able to mitigate the threats that exist out there. Encryption also key. So you have to make sure that you, especially you deal with data, people's data, your clients' data. Also key for you to deploy a robust encryption protocol. All right. So here you're looking at including a transport layer security and data-centric encryption mechanisms to help to preserve the confidentiality and the integrity of sensitive information during transit and storage. Of course, also employee training and awareness, a key component here. So it is important to make sure that you have these regular briefings, regular meetings in which your employees, your staff are sensitized to the security policies of the entity, to the threat levels that exist out there, and you discuss your defense mechanism, your response, how you respond to disasters. So training is key. Training is key, especially if you complement this with simulations. So you will have various exercises, workshops in which persons will have hands-on experience, in responding to various threats or to disasters. The benefit to training the staff can be very far-reaching. Look at it this way: there'll be improved cybersecurity awareness. Training the staff about cybersecurity threats, their consequences, and best practices for prevention raises awareness throughout the entire organization. Here, you will find too that employees will become more vigilant and cautious about their online activities, things that they do, emailing and interaction. It's also important to implement physical security. So here now is where you are literally barring, you're segmenting, you are, let me say, should I say discriminating? So based on the access level of your employees, that will determine, based on, their level of authority, based on their need to know or need to access particular resources, this is going to define what it is that they will have or not have access to. So integrating physical security technologies like biometric access controls and security information management does, in fact, bolster your surveillance system, and it helps to fortify the holistic security posture of the network infrastructure. And finally, we have network monitoring. Now, and this is key. And based on the size of your network, you may have a dedicated team, who will, sit in front of a screen, and they will be using network monitoring software such as PRTG, Network Monitor, very popular. There's also Solaris Wind Network Performance Monitor to keep track of what is happening on your network. So it is important to adhere to a proactive surveillance doctrine, and this is through using, your security information and event management platforms, network behavior analytics tools, to ensure that you're able to swiftly detect, any anomalies, and to be able to swiftly implement a response to such, events. And of course, maintain your network integrity. I would have spoken to this a little while before. So yes, it is also key to be prudent in terms of the management of, the vendor relationships that you maintain, via stringent security assessment. So you have to really, do some great reviews here on, your third party interest, vendors who whose network integrate into yours, and also having a contract clause which helps to assure the network's resilience against potential vulnerabilities that may be introduced by, those external parties. Now, where your work network, as I mentioned before, the network that you have at home, completely different from your office or your work network. Now, with your work network, there's a high level of dependency on your network. Remember that you have your internal stakeholders, you also have your external stakeholders relying on your network. And so you have to work to eliminate single points of failure. You don't want to have that in, being a part of your network. So it is important to build redundancies into your infrastructure. So you're looking at things like employing technologies such as high availability clusters, and this of course will help to safeguard the network architecture against debilitating disruptions. You do not want to have, that dependency where, one device fails and the entire network comes down. Remote work security, I spoke about this already also. So here you want to also implement your VPN, you want to implement zero trust principles, MFA. All should be crafted keenly and integrated into your infrastructure. Then we have your incident response team and plan. Now, a part of your incident response plan should be a playbook. You have a designated response team, and you also have isolated incident sandboxes and All of this would enable no swift mitigation and containment during any security breach. Of course, regular security audits and penetration testing key. So it is important to enforce, these recurring security audits, and have rigorous penetration testing, being a part of the everyday life of the team of your network experts. Then we have user privilege management, implementing the principle of least privilege through robust identity and access management protocols will help to restrict user access to essential functions. Mobile device management is key. Bear in mind that you have a lot of executive, you have key players, technical persons too, who have mobile devices that are issued by the company. Now you should have a great degree of control over those devices, and that is through employing advanced mobile device management solutions. Now this will help now to enrich with content containerization, and be able to remotely wipe these devices. And of course all of this now will help to bolster control over the mobile devices, at least the access of these mobile devices to your network. This was mentioned in the first slide, I believe, securing your Wi-Fi network. Here, you need to configure enterprise-grade Wi-Fi networks with very strong encryption in mechanisms, things like Wi-Fi intrusion detection systems and rogue access point detection will, ensure a formidable defense against wireless threats. And coming down, we have network documentation. So you must document. There must be, and this of course will be a part of the policy, right? So, having the documentation which defines how your network works, bear in mind too that you can have a change of staff. You want to be able to, enable new staff coming on board to be able to understand your network. So creating a meticulous network documentation will encompass, things like a topology map, configuration records, change logs, and also help to establish an indispensable resource for swift troubleshooting and efficient maintenance. So this is really key to your network, and of course they should be built into the policy that governs your network. We're looking at regulatory compliance. So adhering to industry specific regulatory frameworks, augmented by continuous compliance monitoring mechanisms, will of course help to safeguard your network operations while fostering trust among key stakeholders. As I mentioned before, it is not that every organization will necessarily be able to, or let me put it this way, it is not that they will necessarily have the resources to be able to implement, all of what I would have mentioned here. But certainly, I'm sure you'll agree with me that it is important to have, at least, some meticulous system in place to help to elevate the defense system of your organization's network. And of course doing will help to give you that resilient shield against cyber threats and emerging challenges. Now I'm going to close off this part 2 by looking at emerging trends in device security. And firstly here, let me just say that what is happening now is that there's a lot of automation that is being built into network infrastructures, especially those larger networks that are in large corporations, networks that are in industry and manufacturing, because it then becomes impossible for persons to really be able to physically monitor what is happening with the network, again depending on the size of the infrastructure and also given the threats, the extent of the threats that exist out there, it is possible, for some of these things to bypass your security team if they were to be monitoring, what is happening on the network manually. And this now is where the automation comes in. This is where now you have the AI, artificial intelligence, and you have the machine learning being built into the infrastructure. And of course, you have also your biometric authentication being a part of the system. Therefore, leveraging AI and machine language algorithms to analyze vast data sets does help to augment the threat intelligence, and this now enables proactive identification of novel attack patterns. So you're able to detect particular pickup patterns on the network. And again, as I mentioned before, having humans do this task may not necessarily be the best, given the vast the sophistication in the threat levels, the sophistication in how the threats come at you, and also the vast amount of threats that exist out there. Integrating biometric identifiers like your fingerprints and your facial recognition also helps to fortify authentication layers and provides your organization, your network infrastructure with a robust identity validation. Zero trust security models, I mentioned this already. This is something which is fastly being adopted within networks. Cloud security is the other point here, considering that a lot of entities now are tapping into NAS. They are using a lot of cloud infrastructure to scale their businesses, using virtual servers to help to scale their businesses. So as a part of a cloud security system, we have things like cloud access security brokers. So this now is the intermediary. So you have the cloud service provider, you have the broker in the middle, and you have the company that is accessing the cloud infrastructure's resources, the virtual servers. So the access broker, the cloud access broker, serves now to offer that extra layer of protection to both parties. That's the cloud service provider and the enterprise accessing its services. One of the things that they do is that they will employ a zero trust policy in the process to authenticate the transactions taking place. Data encryption is also a big part of the process in the transition of the data between the two parties. And of course, this helps to guarantee tremendous level of confidentiality and integrity of the cloud stored information. Multi-factor authentication, spoke about that already, but let me just add here that with multi-factor authentication, we have it being stepped up to some extent. So you have we have the regular biometric system, which is a part of such an entity, such a system. There are also tokens and knowledge-based authentication that are built into the system now. There is also hardware-based security systems and secure enclave technology. No, I wouldn't say that this is necessarily all that new, because for many years, decades, things like firewalls, proxy servers would have been being a part of the infrastructure of entities, being a part of the network infrastructure of entities, which would help to make their infrastructure that much more robust against external threats. We also have Internet of Things security. So here now we have IoT security best practices, and this includes things like device hardening and network segmentation. I spoke about this already. Ensuring robust protection against IoT specific vulnerabilities. Operational technology, another key component that is being integrated now. So here we're looking at safeguarding operational technologies with anomalies, anomaly detection, network segmentation, and regular patching, which fortifies critical infrastructure against cyber threats. Where are we now? Data privacy. Key. This, again, not new. And over the past, perhaps the last decade, there would have been this would have picked up some traction in terms of, various lobby organizations and, regulatory bodies, coming down hard on, entities in social media, for instance, to ensure that they do, fortify their infrastructure that more to prevent, data leakage and data breaches. So things built into this would be, things like data anonymization, encryption, and privacy enhanced technology, to help to uphold the privacy of the users amidst, as I mentioned before, evolving regulations. So these are things which, they do not remain static, but they continue to evolve as, new technologies are discovered, and are being implemented, and also given the threat levels as they increase in terms of, how they broaden. Remote work security, key component again, and without a doubt, this being tweaked, during the period of the COVID-19, lockdown, when there were, millions of persons around the world, who would have been working remotely. So there is, and this comes back again to the policy. So there is, a designed remote work security strategies that are employed. These would include things like your VPN, your endpoint detection and response. What about robust access control? We spoke about MFA, also, already. Data analytics. So this is something which is, big now. Which, it is all about leveraging advanced data analytics for security orchestration, which allows real-time anomaly detection, which is key. And it comes back again to what I mentioned earlier, that, humans, where the threat level is right now, humans are not necessarily, humans are not able to sit in front of a monitor and to be able to pick up, what is happening there, especially, detect the patterns. This now is where the AI and the ML comes in, to be able to pick up the patterns, the anomalies, right? And so, they can, as a result of this now, have, those predictive incident response and help to refine the threat hunting. Finally, we have 5G network security, and without a doubt, as with every type of network system that we would have, if we would have gone through, there is various protocols that are built into these infrastructures, these technologies, to help to refine the security. Of course, also to reinforce the integrity of the device and help to fortify the network against emerging threats. So that concludes this video, looking at device security. All right, that's it from me. I'm Roger, and look out for part 3 and 4 of this series, in which I look at cybersecurity.